10 days into the job, that's all it took. McDonald's brand new CEO picked up the phone and gave one instruction. Meet him Saturday, bring everything. No PowerPoint, no committee, just one stripped down conference room, 2 guys and a pile of ideas that had been rotting in a drawer for 2 years. By that Saturday evening, McDonald's had a plan again. And that plan decided whether the biggest fast food company on earth survived or slowly turned into a name your parents used to mention. This is the real story. It's messier and honestly cooler than the version most people know. Quick version before we rewind. January 2003, McDonald's posts a loss. Not a rough quarter, its first loss ever as a public company, going all the way back to 1965. The stock goes into freefall. Hundreds of restaurants start closing. Wall Street basically hands the new guy 1 quarter, 90 days to prove the company isn't finished. What happens in those 90 days, especially in one Saturday meeting, is a big part of why you probably ate a Big Mac sometime this year. Stick around. One decision made in that room ends up saving the company a fortune. We'll get to it. Rewind to the late 90s first, because nothing collapses overnight. McDonald's went on a building spree, new locations everywhere, every single year. Nobody stopped to ask if the existing restaurants were still good. Quality slipped, service slipped. The company had quietly stopped grading its own restaurants back in 1993, so almost nobody was even checking anymore. Then CEO Jack Greenberg made things worse. He chased growth by buying into other restaurant chains entirely, instead of fixing the one he already had. Sales at existing stores kept sliding year after year. Customers felt it long before the headlines did. By the end of 2002, McDonald's board had seen enough. 9 months earlier, they'd asked Greenberg to stay on until 2005. Now, they pushed him out the door instead. Then came the number that stopped everyone cold. A $443.8 million loss for the final quarter of 2002. McDonald's had never lost money in a single quarter before, not once in almost 40 years of being public. To be fair, over $800 million of that came from one-time charges tied to closing weak restaurants. Nobody on Wall Street cared about that nuance that week. The stock, which had traded above $30 the summer before, kept sliding for weeks. It eventually hit an all-time low around $12. And 719 restaurants worldwide got marked for closure. For good. So who do you call when the biggest restaurant company on the planet is bleeding out? The board called Jim Cantalupo, a man who'd already retired. Funny enough, he started out as an accountant. A firm called Arthur Young placed him at McDonald's as a client back in the early 70s. He impressed people enough that McDonald's hired him directly as controller in 1974. He rose fast after that, spending 28 years at the company and building its international business from a handful of countries into 120 markets. Then he retired in 2001 after narrowly missing out on the top job the first time around. Now the board wanted him back. On January 1st, 2003, he officially became chairman and CEO. Investors were not thrilled. Bringing back an insider felt like more of the same problem, not a fix. Some shareholders openly called it inbred. Cantalupo had exactly one job now: prove them all wrong fast. On that same call announcing the ugly loss, Cantalupo made a promise: a full, comprehensive turnaround plan, ready by the end of March. Do the math on that one. January 1st to March 31st is exactly 90 days. 90 days to undo a decade of drift. 90 days before investor patience ran out for good. Most new CEOs spend that stretch stuck in meetings with outside consultants. Cantalupo skipped straight past that. 10 days into the job, he called a guy named Max Lederhausen, head of business development at the time. The ask was simple: show up Saturday. Bring every idea that got shot down or shelved over the last 2 years. Lederhausen walked in and found zero corporate theatre. No slides, no consultants, just the two of them and a pile of dead projects on the table. For hours, they worked through every single one of them. Cantalupo sorted each idea into 3 piles, right there in the room. Must do, nice to do, don't do. By the end of that afternoon, McDonald's had a real direction again, for the first time in years. Lederhausen summed it up later. In roughly a week, Cantalupo reset the direction of the entire company. He did it just by finally being willing to say yes or no, instead of letting good ideas sit in limbo forever. That Saturday became the seed of something the company named the Plan to Win. The whole philosophy fit in one line: stop chasing bigger, start chasing better. Add customers to the restaurants McDonald's already owned. Stop adding restaurants and hoping the customers would show up eventually. Restaurant grading came back from the dead. Mystery shoppers started showing up unannounced. Every location got scored on quality, service, cleanliness and value in that exact order. Money mattered just as much as the menu. McDonald's slashed new capital spending, way down from the $2 billion it poured into new stalls back in 2002. That freed up cash went straight toward paying down debt and handing cash back to shareholders instead. Here's a detail people forget. McDonald's have paid a dividend every year since 1976, raising it every single year. That streak never broke, not even during the worst quarter in company history. New menu items followed fast. Premium salads, the McGriddle, apple slices for kids instead of just fries. Remember that don't do pile from the meeting? By December 2003, it had real teeth. McDonald's announced it was narrowing its side businesses down to just 2, Chipotle and Boston Market. Everything else it had chased under the old strategy got cut loose. Even the advertising changed. I'm Loving It started showing up everywhere that year.
Here's usually where stories like this fall apart. Big plan, nice speech, nothing actually changes. This one worked, and it worked fast. By early 2003, sales at existing restaurants jumped by 1/3. Profit kept falling for a little while longer, then flipped hard. By the third quarter of 2003, profit was up 12%. Earnings per share hit a record 43 cents, up 13% in a single year. Analysts who'd basically written McDonald's off started naming Cantalupo CEO of the Year. Former CFO Matt Paul said Cantalupo absorbed every ounce of Wall Street's heat personally. That's what let the rest of the team finally feel safe enough to take real risks again. Paul remembered telling people Cantalupo was the only finance executive he'd ever met with ketchup in his veins. Now here's the part that still gets people. By 2004, McDonald's stock was climbing off that $12 floor. Revenue jumped 17% that year alone. The man who saved the company was finally about to watch it fly.
He never got to see it. In April 2004, at an international franchisee convention in Orlando, Cantalupo suffered a heart attack. He was 60 years old. He'd been scheduled to open the convention that exact morning. Here's the part that says everything about what he actually built. The company didn't fall apart without him. By then, the plan was bigger than any one person. Charlie Bell stepped up next. 6 months later, he resigned too, after being diagnosed with terminal cancer. 2 CEOs, gone within about a year of each other. Most companies would spiral completely. Instead, Jim Skinner took the job. A guy who'd started at McDonald's 33 years earlier, flipping burgers on the actual line. Skinner happened to be the last person left who'd helped write the original Plan to Win himself. Under him, same-store sales grew for 7 straight years in a row. McCafe rolled out worldwide. By 2010, the company was pulling in more than $24 billion a year. That $12 stock eventually traded above $300.
People who work closely with Cantalupo remember one thing about him more than any strategy slide. He genuinely cared about the people carrying out his plan, not just the plan itself. And it showed in exactly how loyal his team stayed to him years later. Today, there's a scholarship fund carrying his name at his old business school. Former McDonald's colleagues, suppliers and partners have kept adding to it for over 20 years, long after he was gone. So next time you're standing in a McDonald's line, remember this. The whole company nearly buckled in one boardroom in the first few months of 2003. What actually saved it wasn't a genius strategy deck. It wasn't some outside consulting firm either. It was one guy, one Saturday and 3 piles of paper. Must do, nice to do, don't do. The biggest turnaround in fast food history didn't start with a brilliant new idea. It started with someone finally brave enough to say no to the wrong ones. What would your must-do pile look like right now?